A concert pianist gets shot 8 times and lives to tell the story.
I was like, God, help me make it.
Plus, get your home ready for the holidays with tips from Southern Living's Kimberly Whitman. Then, a Marine on the front lines and a warrior on the home front.
It needed to be done.
Embark on their next mission.
That's amazing.
On today's 700 Club.
Welcome to the 700 Club. It's getting close to Christmas. I want to talk about 2 Christmas presents we're all getting. The first is from our esteemed president. The debt in the nation has gone to $18 trillion. That's right, you heard me right, 18 trillion. It just crossed that level, and it's up 70% since Mr. Obama took office. That's his present to the American people. However, over in OPEC, the Saudis and those in OPEC are giving us a special present this Christmas. They have kept gasoline pumping at the pumps. The taps are wide open, and the price of crude oil has gone down. It looks like it may hit as much as $1.5 trillion, and that means what you spend at the pump, it may be Americans are going to have $1 billion Christmas present thanks to our friends in Saudi Arabia. Well, the drop isn't over yet. It's good news for American drivers, but not for everyone, including countries like Russia, Venezuela, and Iran.
Ephraim Graham brings us this look at how the falling price of oil is good for the American economy and for your pocketbook.
They are the lowest gas prices in more than 4 years, and drivers across the country couldn't be happier.
It's going to go down even more. Thank God. Thank you. Thank you.
Even better for delivery drivers, man. I'm delivering in the Bay Area, and cheaper gas helps me with my family.
Oil prices are down around 40% since the middle of June, dropping below $70, something that would have been unheard of just a few months ago. More than 60% of U.S. gas stations are already selling gas lower than $3. The national average is down to $2.77 a gallon, and it could go even lower, down another 10 to 20 cents. It's a boost for the economy because the lower gas prices are like a tax cut for anyone who buys gas.
With someone that commutes, it does add up over, the weeks and the months.
Those lower gas prices are a good sign for consumer spending as the holiday season approaches, because the more drivers save at the pump, the more they'll have to splurge on presents and everything else. But it's not necessarily great news for countries that export oil, like oil exporting countries in the Middle East, Russia, Venezuela, and others. Venezuela will bring in less money from oil, and that could hurt an economy that already faces problems. Russia's economy is also already hurting because the value of the ruble has been falling on the international markets, and inflation has been heading higher. And the Washington Post reports lower oil prices could hurt Iran, which relies on money from selling oil. Lower oil prices could hit the Iranian economy, which is already under international sanctions because of its nuclear program. No one really knows the full impact of falling oil prices because they drop so fast. So for now, many companies and countries are simply wondering how they'll deal with this new world of cheap oil. Ephraim Graham, CBN News.
Well, does it last a long time? We don't know. But right now, the airlines are rejoicing. They will pay less for fuel. Everybody that travels will pay less. Trucking companies will pay less. And of course, over the last year or two, American natural gas has been in such abundant supply that chemical companies have been having a windfall, and companies are moving to America to get cheap energy. So it's remarkable. That's what the fracking boom has done. And of course, if those environmentalists would get their heads out of the sand, you might find the Keystone XL pipeline going through, which would be another boon to the American economy. So that's the benefit of private industry, and that's the gift that we've got this Christmas. Well, in other news, The FBI is warning that ISIS may use information from the internet for terrorist attacks. John Jessup has that story from our CBN News Bureau in Washington. Here's John.
Pat, that warning is for members of the U.S. military to protect themselves from a possible attack by ISIS on U.S. soil, urging them to erase all information on social media accounts that could help violent extremists learn their identities. This from a new intelligence report issued by the Bureau and the Department of Homeland Security. As Caitlin Burke reports, it's the strongest warning to date about possible attacks by ISIS.
It's a warning aimed directly at members of the U.S. military. ISIS is targeting you right here at home. According to fresh intelligence reports, ISIS is actively trying to recruit American jihadis to target former and current members of the military. And in this age of technology, online information like a Facebook page could be how they choose their targets.
That is prompting the military to ask its members to scrub its social media sites, essentially to leave no footprint of their activities in light of the fact that we've seen ISIS attacks in places like Canada and trying to prevent attacks against soft targets.
Dr. Jonathan Schanzer of the Foundation for the Defense of Democracy says that ISIS is targeting members of the military because they're engaged in the fight against terrorism. And here at home, they won't be carrying a gun or wearing the protection that they might be in a war zone.
The really scary thing is that there appears to be some network that exists here in the United States that belongs to ISIS.
When it comes to scrubbing social media accounts, experts say to delete anything that tells your location, information about what you're doing for the military and when, and any posts that share your opinion about ISIS or the fight against them. These new warnings from the FBI come as an ISIS affiliate in Egypt claims responsibility for the killing of an American oil worker, William Henderson. The FBI says it's skeptical of the claims, but it is investigating. Caitlin Burke, CBN News.
An ominous warning, Pat.
Well, I've got sense enough to stay off of that nonsense. So why would anybody put their personal information on some public site where everybody can read it? It's crazy.
Well, everybody's talking about ISIS. I'm talking about it on my Facebook. I mean, we're all
I don't talk about Facebook. I don't put tweets, blogs, or anything else on Facebook. I've got an ex-dog. I gave my dog away, and the dog has a Facebook
Blue
account.
has I'm friends with Blue on Facebook. Yeah, we and I chat regularly, but it's modern age. I mean, most people, if you're not on Facebook, it's hard to communicate anymore without Facebook.
I use the telephone. It's real easy. It's old-fashioned. You dial a couple of numbers and you say, hey, let me talk to you.
Let me ask you, I mean, seriously, how can ISIS look at all, there's a lot of military. Everybody's talking about it. How can they just decide, okay, we're going to go after this person and,
Well, I mean, that's easy. You can pick any targets you want to and just kill a few of them. You don't have to worry about the strategic target. Just kill somebody.
Yeah, and terror is their goal. I mean, they want to put fear in the hearts of all of us.
If they killed 10 servicemen at random, it would put fear into the entire United States military, and they would be sitting up alert, and it would cost millions and millions of dollars. That's the game of the terrorists. Okay, well, let's go back to John.
Pat, the White House is declaring that the Muslim Brotherhood is not a terrorist group. The Washington Free Beacon reports that statement comes in response to a petition with 200,000 signatures on the White House website, We the People. The petition states Muslim Brotherhood has a long history of violent killings and terrorizing opponents. Muslim Brotherhood also has direct ties with most terrorist groups like Hamas. The White House responded saying, we have not seen credible evidence that the Muslim Brotherhood has renounced its decades-long commitment to nonviolence. CBN News has reported that the Brotherhood followers hold influential advisory positions in the Obama administration. Pat?
It makes you sick at your stomach that the president, whose name is, Barack Hussein Obama, who studied in Indonesia and had a Muslim stepfather for a while, has embraced this terrorist organization. The Egyptians have got sense enough to kick them out. They ruled in Egypt, and they were being prosecuted for crimes. Some of that's been eased up the last couple of days, but nevertheless, the Egyptian people wanted no part of it. I want to say the Muslim Brotherhood brought forth the PLO, Yasser Arafat and the PLO. They brought forth Hamas. They have brought forth, I believe, the radical group Hezbollah in Lebanon. That's just some of the stuff that they've done. They have been dedicated to the destruction of Israel, and their goal is to establish a caliphate throughout the Middle East. ISIS is frankly following the Muslim Brotherhood playbook. And for the President of the United States to say there's no credible evidence that they have renounced their peaceful intentions, that is pure baloney. And it just makes you sick at your stomach. I wonder if Hillary Clinton, who's the presumable heir of the Democratic mantle for president, whether she's going to embrace this stuff or whether she'll run away from it. But that ain't going to help her candidacy one bit. John?
Pat, President Obama is offering new proposals for local police in the wake of the unrest in Ferguson, Missouri. The effort is aimed at calming what he called the simmering distrust between police and communities of color seen after a grand jury didn't find reason to indict the officer who killed 18-year-old Michael Brown. After meeting with civil rights activists and political leaders from across the country, the president unveiled a $263 million plan to increase police training. That plan includes $75 billion for small cameras police can wear on their lapels. Pat?
Al Sharpton was there, I believe, in that meeting. He has access to the White House. I understand he hasn't paid taxes. He's got a lot of stuff. He's a very radical guy. Anyhow, in all the rhetoric and all the talk, and the president loves to talk, not once was it said that that Michael guy in Ferguson, the so-called gentle giant, not once was it said that he had robbed a convenience store. Not once has anybody said that he was guilty of petty larceny and that he attacked a police officer. He was always unarmed black man shot down by a white police officer. And the president had a chance many times to say, Michael Brown was doing something wrong. He robbed a convenience store, which I might add in these riots was completely trashed by those mobs. And as somebody has been asking, who profits when this is all over? When Ferguson is turned to a smoldering ash, who profited in Watts when the gangs were turning that city upside down? Who profited in Detroit? With race riots? Who profits when they burn their own city down? Who profits? Well, it certainly doesn't help the black people get jobs. It doesn't help the businesses. It doesn't help the economy. But it sure does do a lot of hurt to people. And what kind of rage is that? And why would you be angry? Because a policeman restrained a man who had been engaged in shoplifting in a convenience store and then was violating the traffic laws, and then who attacked a police officer and tried to take his weapon away from him. These all are felonies. They're felonies, ladies and gentlemen, misdemeanors or felonies. Why do we make a hero of somebody who did that? John.
Pat, turning overseas, Israel's coalition government led by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu may be heading for early elections. As Chris Mitchell explains from Jerusalem, part of the political crisis revolves around a bill that would legally define Israel as a nation-state of the Jewish people.
Netanyahu told some members of his coalition, "You're either for me or against me."
I demand them to stand behind the current policy to lead the country from a security standpoint, economy, lowering the cost of living in every field. If they agree, we will be able to continue. If they decline, we will draw our conclusions and go to the voters.
Some members shot back at Netanyahu.
It's time to stop with the fiery rhetoric and radical bills and promote what can be agreed upon, or we'll go to the voter and let him choose between two ways.
The crisis leaves the government's future in doubt.
The current coalition crisis in Israel is both a made-up crisis and also a potential serious crisis that could bring down the government.
One issue dividing the different political parties has been a controversial bill officially defining Israel as the nation state of the Jewish people. Professor Abraham Diskin helped draft the legislation. He says the law is simple.
It's a declaratory law that talks about the fact that Israel is a Jewish nation, that the flag is the flag that we already have. The anthem is the same anthem.
The purpose of the law is to defend things that already exist. It doesn't create a single new policy.
Yoram Hazony, president of the Herzl Institute, says with the current state of the Middle East, Israel needs to maintain its Jewish nature, while at the same time being a robust democracy.
This is a law that seeks to defend the existing Jewish school system, the law of return, the rights of the Israeli government to employ Israeli armed forces for the sake of the defense of Jewish people everywhere in the world rather than only for Israeli citizens. That's not a change in the status quo, that's defending the status quo.
Hazony and Diskin say the law preserves the individual rights of all Israelis, regardless of race or religion. Yet given the current political crisis, it's unlikely the law will be voted on soon. Early elections seem more likely. If so, recent polls suggest Benjamin Netanyahu would return as prime minister for a fourth term. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
In health news, diabetes when you're middle-aged could increase your chances of dementia when you get older. That's the finding from a new study from Johns Hopkins. According to the study, people who had diabetes and related conditions had higher risks of memory issues as they got older. Scientists aren't sure why there's a link between the two health problems, but the findings do square up with previous research. Pat, just another reason to watch your weight or to lose weight to keep your brain healthy.
The whole deal, ladies and gentlemen, is inflammation. Inflammation, which is caused by an excess of processed carbohydrates coming into your system, which forces the adrenal glands to pump insulin, which in turn screws up the delicate balance of your hormones. And because the adrenals are working so hard, they suddenly become exhausted. And when they do, you get diabetes. And you do it by eating the way you eat. And all this fast food, when you think the whole world is getting fat. Why? Because we at the United States have exported all this stuff. And people are they're eating trans fats, and they're eating greasy foods, and they're eating lots and lots of processed sugar. And they're drinking these soft drinks that are loaded with sugar, and it's leading to type 2 diabetes. And if it brings about Alzheimer's, it's a health crisis, and we need to do something about it. But apparently, the food industry is too big and too powerful to restrain. We were able to restrain, in part, the tobacco industry, but we haven't been able to restrain the food industry. So the sugar pops are going to still there enticing little kids, and you'll still be having Happy Meals at the Big Mac store.
Tell you what, Pat, if people stopped buying things with high fructose corn syrup in it, the companies would shape up.
There was an expert who said, I see this horrible thing impending on the American people. That was years ago when they opened the floodgate for high fructose corn syrup. Yeah. And once it's in everything, read the labels, high fructose corn syrup, dextrose, fructose, and all those other names. It's in everything. And of course, the corn processors are making a lot of money, and the guys in Iowa don't want to give it up. So when people do a primary in Iowa, they say, oh, I'm for corn, I'm for subsidies, I'm for this, that, and the other. To get those Iowa votes, I know how it works. Wendy.
All right, just say no to high fructose corn syrup. Well, up next, a young musician gets shot 8 times at point-blank range.
When I first saw the flash, I didn't know I got shot. I just remember hitting the ground.
Hear who or perhaps what saved his life next.
Hey, you're watching the 700 Club. We're happy to have you with us. We've got something about decorating. We've got a lovely lady who'll show you how to make beautiful things in your home. She's with Southern Living, and I think you'll find it very, very interesting. But before we get to the decorating tips, I want to introduce to you a guy who played with some of the biggest names in the music industry. And he lived large. And then suddenly, Marcus Stanley was shot 8 times at close range, left for dead. But as Charlene Aaron tells us, that isn't the end of his story. It's only the beginning.
Music has flowed through Marcus Stanley's blood for as long as he can remember. He learned to play the piano with little training, something he calls a gift from above.
I would really hear stuff on the radio, and I would play things that I heard other people do. It was all God-given, because it wasn't because I had the training or anything. It was just because I really wanted to play.
He started out in church, but longed for a bigger stage. That big break came after dropping out of high school.
I got discovered just being at a concert, and I actually filled in for someone. And the guy was a music director for the group, and he gave me a card and told me to call him. So I started touring really at the age of 16 and went around actually about 42 states out of the 50.
Marcus played for some of the biggest names in the music industry, including R&B singer Chris Brown. He later began traveling with gospel artists like Donnie McClurkin, but he wasn't interested in the message in their music.
I was not focused on the people. I was not focused on the message. I was not focused on Christ. I was really focused on just making it. A musician, being a popular musician and playing for great artists. Oh yeah, the money too. That would probably be number one, because it was fast money.
Enjoying success, Marcus lived extravagantly, traveling the country with well-known musicians. All of that changed the night of April 2nd, 2004.
We got in late every night. I was actually walking to the store. I realized I didn't have my wallet and I hadn't reached the store yet. But I turned around and started walking back to go get my wallet. And I saw these guys standing on the corner that night, and they were watching me.
One of the men approached him.
But when he said, "What are you doing out here?" and I said, "I'm just chilling," he was like, "Well, you got to roll out." And that's when he pulled out a gun from his jacket. He had a leather jacket on and a hoodie. And he pulled it out, and he pointed at me, and he shot it 1 time.
After falling to the ground, he was shot 7 more times up close.
And when I first saw the flash, I didn't know I got shot. I just remember hitting the ground. And then when he stood over top of me, that's when I saw an angel getting in front of me. And I remember, because I didn't have time to think about that, it was an instantaneous thing.
I asked him to describe what he saw.
It was probably, I mean, I'm 6'7". The angel was probably like 7 foot something. And it was just a transparent figure. I couldn't tell if it was a male or female. I didn't see wings or anything like that, but I saw it was like clear, transparent, and it was in front of me. I knew it was an angel just because the protection, it got into a position like this in front of me. And I remember seeing that.
The men stood over Marcus, laughing, thinking they had just killed him. Still barely alive, he managed to dial 911. By the time paramedics arrived, they offered little hope he would survive.
I was like, God, help me make it. I just remember trying to stay awake. It was like a movie. You know, you see that stuff in the movie, you see the light up, and you see people, light flashing before their eyes. It was like that for me, except that I started thinking about what would happen if I did die. And I was like, nobody's going to know what happened to me.
At the hospital, Marcus went immediately into surgery, where he told me he saw a familiar face.
Saw a lot of doctors and nurses just kind of standing. And I remember looking, as I'm getting ready for surgery, I remember looking and seeing the same angel that was there on the street. And the angel was just kind of like arms crossed like this, and just like, it didn't do anything or say anything. It was kind of like nodding his head.
Doctors faced a major challenge while operating.
I had my colon reattached, half a stomach. My stomach got removed. My spleen got removed completely. Half of my pancreas. I had some very extensive surgery. There's certain things about my body that are not the same.
That meant months in rehab, including learning to walk again. Another major change, nerve damage in his right arm, left him without feeling in his hand. Doctors told Marcus his piano playing days were over, but he proved them wrong, making it back to touring within months. The amazing recovery came with a price, however, as he popped painkillers for relief. Thankful to be alive, his relationship with God was still shallow. 5 years later, Marcus hit rock bottom, struggling with drug addiction and depression.
I got to a point where in desperation, I was like, I can't do this anymore. And that's when everything changed for me as far as pursuing saying I need Jesus. It took me a long time to get there.
Police later told Marcus that a gang initiation led to his shooting. They caught the men, but witnesses wouldn't testify against them, allowing them to go free. Today, Marcus travels the world sharing his story. He says his love of music is now part of his life's mission, which includes talking with youth groups and high school students.
It's not really about the music, it's more about what God's done in my life. And I aim to make him famous in everything that I do and to show his glory.
Charlene Aaron, CBN News, Glen Allen, Virginia.
Tremendous miracle, ladies and gentlemen. I tell you what, angels are real. Angels are real. God is real. Jesus is real. The supernatural world is real. And that world is there for you if you just reach up and touch what God wants. Jesus said that if you believe, all things are possible to him that believes. And Marcus is somebody who didn't have a whole lot of faith, but God had a plan for him and sent an angel. What a wonderful story. If you need help, by the way, you can call in. Somebody's here to help you. We'll be glad to have somebody pray with you or counsel you or whatever you need. The number's there. It's 1-800-759-0700. Here's Wendy with what's next on the 700 Club.
All right, coming up, a young couple gets hounded by creditors, and that's not even the worst parts.
It's very humbling having to call your mom and her knowing that you're on food stamps.
Hear what solved their money woes next.
To listen to our top songs of the week, go to CBN Radio at cbn.com.
Well, it's getting close to Christmas. You know, some of the stories of past years have had people that didn't have any money, but just imagine what you'd feel like, you and your wife, close to Christmas, you dig into your pocket, and you have $1.29. That's all you've got. You don't have a job. You don't have any money coming in. What would you do? Well, Jason and Beth were that couple. They're out of work. They lived on food stamps. And $1.25 left. Now, here's how they used that $1.25 to change their lives.
Jason and Beth Bayman's relationship was a constant struggle.
Things were absolutely terrible. He would lie to get out and party with whoever he could party with, and then when he was at work, I would do whatever I wanted to do with my friends to get through the day, and we were spiritually unhinged, completely spiritually unhinged.
They were also broke. Jason had been laid off from his job as an electrician, and they were living on unemployment checks and food stamps.
Creditors were calling us. I had unpaid medical bills that I had to take care of, and it was really tough.
Financially, we were struggling week to week, but often day to day. We would have to call either my parents or his parents or just not pay the bill.
It's very humbling having to call your mom and her knowing that you're on food stamps.
Jason's father encouraged them to go to church. They did, and in 2011, both Jason and Beth rededicated their lives to Jesus Christ.
I started reading my Bible. As I started reading the Bible more and it started, working in me, it started changing my heart.
As their faith grew stronger, so did their marriage. But Jason still didn't have a job. His father suggested they start tithing. So on their next trip to church, they took a step of faith.
All we had was I had a little crumpled up $1 bill in my pocket, and Jason had a quarter in his. And so I tried to get the little crinkles out of it the best I could, and I folded it up neatly, and I put the quarter inside it and put it in a little basket.
In the following weeks, they gave a little more.
We would be faithful, and God would be faithful back. We would give the $1.25. Then he would be faithful and help us through the week. Then we gave $7 and helped faithful through the week. Then we were able to give $20, and then he was faithful throughout the week. And Then he was faithful above and beyond by giving Jason a job. And we were so excited.
As we've given more and we've been able to give more, he's been blessing us more and more. And now I'm going to be hired on with this new company and I'm going to be making even more money.
In fact, the company provides a raise every 6 months and is also paying Jason to finish school to be a journeyman electrician. The couple say their marriage and finances have never been better. And as they've grown in their faith, they've made giving to God's work a priority. One ministry close to their heart is CBN.
The ministry that touches my heart every single time is when I see those sweet children gathered around the clean, clear water. You can see living water just going into those children's villages, and you're so proud to be part of that. That was the main thing that touched my heart when I wanted to become part of CBN.
Jason and Beth believe that giving to God is more than just an act of kindness.
It's not about me giving to him because he doesn't need it. It's about him reaching down and pulling me up. And the act of giving is what he uses to interact. And he says, participate in my kingdom. Your money is not something I need. I have many children that I love. You give to me and I help my children, and you're helping your brothers and your sisters.
Boy, Beth's got it, doesn't she? She has got it. Well, you see, Jesus said when he is recorded in Luke 6:33, give, and it will be given to you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over will be put into your bosom. For with the same measure that you use, it will be measured back to you. And you know, you say, well, $1.25 isn't a whole lot of money. Well, in their case, it was 100%. It was all they had. And God looked at it, not the fact that it wasn't $1 million for somebody who's a multimillionaire, but it was all they had, 100%. And they gave unto the Lord, and they gave willingly. The next thing you know, God began to bless. That's what he does. That's what he does. Well, Paul Trevkar served his country well. And when he left the Corps, he and his wife wanted to help others. But again, the money started getting tight. And this couple needed somebody to help them out.
Marine Corps Sergeant Paul Treloar knows firsthand what it's like to serve on the front lines in Afghanistan and Iraq. During his 8 years of service, he remembers leaving his family behind was always tough. When deployed, he relied on his wife Jenny to keep the family connected.
Where'd she go? Though I wasn't there, she kept videos and she'd email me. She is amazing. I couldn't do a lot of the stuff that she's done. She's been the best thing that God's put in my life.
You do what you have to do. I wasn't doing it to be amazing. I was doing it because it needed to be done.
Paul left the Corps when the couple felt God calling them to missions full-time. Then they discovered living in the mission field would take more money and training than they first thought. They postponed their plan, which left Paul scrambling for a job.
It was really a shock and really frightening because, you know, I've got a wife and 3 kids to take care of. We knew it was going to be a huge trial for us. It's not going to be fun, it's not going to be easy, but God will provide.
The Treloar's pastor, Bobby Oliveri, asked CBN's Helping the Homefront to assist the family. CBN was honored to help.
I'm really overcome by a sense of gratitude and thankfulness that there are partners willing to come beside and do things that smaller churches aren't able to do.
Pastor Bobby went to their home and told the couple Helping the Homefront would pay 3 months of car payments and rent while Paul looked for a job.
Wow, 3 months of no rent, that's amazing. Rent is a huge, huge part of our budget.
A few months later, Paul landed a job with the local power company. He's also pursuing his training for the mission field. The Treloars say Helping the Homefront helped them through their crisis.
It is such a blessing that CBN could find us through our local church, that a big corporation could partner up with the local, where the people really are.
It's very reassuring, that God will provide if you are truly in line with His will. We thank CBN and our church so much for providing for us and doing God's work.
Well, it's a new initiative that has been started, and Gordon started, called Helping the Home Front. And we think these veterans who come home, they need sometimes a little help. Not a lot necessarily, but just the little things. We help them for 3 months, just 3 months. Next thing you know, he's got a job, he's underway, but he's got a family, he's got to look after people, and he's served our country. So today, by the way, is a special day. We call it Give Back Tuesday. And on this day, we have partners who will match everything you give during this day, or everything you pledge during this day. So today would be a day to say, I'm going to give my best gift to Jesus. It's Jesus' birthday we're celebrating. And this is Give Back Tuesday. And all today and tomorrow, everything's going to be matched. So go to your telephones and call in and say, okay, you can count on me. I'm going to give. And some of you, you want to get your taxes set up. It's a good time to give gifts of appreciated stock or real estate or things like that. But whatever, call in right now. Wendy, what's next?
All right. Well, it's the most wonderful time of the year. And in just a moment, we're going to show you how to make your home the most wonderful on the block. We've got some quintessential Christmas ideas for your house, so don't go away.
Welcome back to Washington for this CBN News break. Kenyan authorities believe Islamic terrorists from neighboring Somalia killed 36 quarry workers Tuesday morning. It happened in Mandera County near the Somalia border. Police say gunmen singled out non-Muslims for execution, ambushing the workers as they slept. Some of the victims were beheaded. Local police suspect the Somalia-based al-Shabaab terrorist group is to blame. Al-Shabaab carried out a similar attack last week when it murdered 28 non-Muslims on a bus. The group is affiliated with al-Qaeda. A church burning in New Delhi prompted a protest by hundreds of Christians in the Indian nation's capital Tuesday. Authorities don't know the cause of the blaze that destroyed St. Sebastian's Church, but Catholic leaders suspect arson. The fire destroyed the church interior, including the altar, the Bible, and the cross. In a statement, the Archdiocese says forensic samples taken from the site smelled of fuel. Hundreds of Christians gathered outside police headquarters calling for an investigation. Well, you can always get the latest from CBN News by going to our website at cbnnews.com. Pat and Wendy will be back with more of the 700 Club right after this.
Well, from artificial trees to inflatable reindeer, Americans spend over $7 billion on Christmas decorations each year. But that doesn't mean you need to break the bank to get your home ready for the holidays. There are some quick and easy ways to deck the halls, and Kimberly Whitman will show you how to do it.
Kimberly Whitman is the editor-at-large for Southern Living magazine. And she says it's easier than you might think to create special memories this holiday season for your family they will remember for years to come. Kimberly's known for her creative entertaining tips and elegant style, and those ideas are featured in the pages of Southern Living each year. This holiday season, she will show you how to dazzle your family and friends with festive decorating ideas and delectable desserts.
And Kimberly Whitman is back with us again. Welcome back to the 700
Thank you.
Club. So excited to have you here.
I'm thrilled to be here.
Hey, I want to show everybody this amazing book, Christmas All Through the South. This book is massive and it's filled with some incredible pictures of decorating all over the country and some great recipes. What is it about a Southern Christmas that's so special?
Well, this book certainly personifies what that is. It is filled with beautiful and inspirational traditions and decorations and recipes, amazing recipes, and all sorts of ideas to help you remember maybe the traditions that you grew up with that you can bring back with your family.
Well, speaking of that, you had some pretty cool ones in your family growing up. Tell us about some of your traditions.
I had some really fun ones. One of my favorite is that my mother always put an orange in the toe of our stocking every year.
An orange.
An orange. And a few years ago, I asked her, why an orange in the stocking? And she said, well, that's what my mother did. And to me, that story really personifies Christmas all through the South. I mean, it's just carrying forward those beautiful traditions that you grew up with. And it's, of course,
healthier than candy canes.
It is. Well, we have those too.
You're right, right.
But yes, and it is, definitely. And it's just something that I love to do now with my own kids.
Awesome. Well, let's go over here to the mantle because, you know, everybody loves to decorate their fireplace.
Yes.
And this one is spectacular. Tell us what you've done here.
So I think when you're decorating for the holidays, one of the keys is to pick a color scheme, or I hate to use the word theme, but maybe it is in this case. We've kind of decided that this will be a Yuletide feast year. So we have lots of natural greenery, and we've accented it with burlap and creams, natural colors.
It's beautiful.
But of course, I'm from Texas, so I need a little bit of sparkles.
Yes.
So I brought some mercury glass ornaments along and silver candlesticks. And,
So
you know, we
maybe
just kind of tuck them in.
Up there, too. I think it needs a little
You know what?
sparkle
You're
up there.
right.
Let me do this one.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll let you do that one.
Oh, yeah, that's
perfect.
Okay.
You were right. See, and you just have to take a little look and see where you need it and add it in. But the trick here is all the texture. So when you pick simple colors like that, you want to make sure you add layers of texture. And in this case, we did that.
I mean, you could go out in your yard. This is real pine.
Absolutely.
And this is real moss.
It is.
Okay.
And real magnolia branches.
Oh, those are real too. Okay.
Yes, but what you really want to do is have the combination of those different types of greenery. And I like the idea of using the natural greenery as well.
Now, the magnolia wreath, it's so simple but so beautiful, and those are real magnolia leaves.
Yes.
You're going to show us how to make this. I got to be honest, I am not a crafty person. I like to go to the store and buy it already made, but this looks pretty. Look, I think I could do this.
I think you could too, and it's fun, right? And it's something you could do maybe with a friend, with family. So we took a wreath form that is made of oasis. You can get it at any craft store.
Any craft store.
A floral store, something like that. You soak it so it's wet.
Okay.
Soak it for a little while, so give yourself some time. Then gather up your magnolia leaves. Now these are shiny because you can polish them.
You polish
or
these
wipe
with,
them off. What did you pledge if you want to? Whatever you have around the house, you can polish these leaves. And then you're just sticking them right into the oasis.
And they just like go in so easy.
Yep.
I love this.
And you just keep layering and layering. And then I love the back side of a magnolia leaf also.
Oh my gosh.
So you could turn it around backwards.
Yeah, the brown.
Add a little bit of texture.
Okay.
A different texture again. But don't you think in all of its simplicity, it's very, very elegant, right?
This is beautiful.
And it adds just a pretty handmade touch. You could hang it above the mantle like we did here. You could hang it on your door, or you could leave it in the center of your table somewhere. Maybe put a candelabra or something like that in the middle.
The weather's not going to hurt it because it's all natural.
That's right.
Well, let's move on to creating a moss votive. Now, this is interesting. This is also, I guess, if you live in a wet place, you can go outside and get the moss.
Otherwise, you can get it at a craft store or a florist
It's
store.
a beautiful color.
Isn't
it's certainly
it pretty?
the right
Thank
color
you.
for the holidays. So what do we do with it?
It's a little pop of color. Well, we're just going to add it to a little votive glass. You can take any glass. I wanted a pop of color, so we have green, extra green here. Don't eat it. Don't eat it.
Somebody might think it's parsley, though.
It does kind of look. You're right. Just fill it on up with the moss.
Okay.
And then we have a place card here. We have Pat's place card.
Oh, this one's for Pat.
Yeah.
Okay, Pat, we got your name.
And
You're down for dinner.
Let's just stick it right there.
Okay, cool.
And just tuck it in there.
That's so
there
cute.
you go.
Very
So
cute.
simple, right? But it
Okay.
adds a real pop of color to the table.
Speaking of the table, this looks like George Washington would be very comfortable coming to dine here. We have a lot of colonial-looking plates. And it's layered. Tell us about it. What did you do?
Well, you're absolutely right. But we also gave it a little bit of a modern touch by adding in some of the silvers and the natural materials, and especially with this ikat cloth, which I love.
Yeah.
This natural cloth with a little bit of pattern and texture, which I think is so pretty. So we really wanted to start with a base that was a pop of color on top of the tablecloth. So a bright charger, blue or green, whatever you have in your own collection. And then we layered it with different, layer all the different things that you have. I like that these are kind of a mixed match set.
You know what
That's
I like?
part of the
I
beauty.
like the pewter really brings you back to colonial days. And then my favorite, I think, has got to be the blingy pine cones.
The silvered pine cones. So pretty. It's something you could find in a store or do yourself. But I love that. And I also love for the centerpiece, the way we put this ribbon around. It's just a simple grosgrain ribbon with silvered acorns glued to it. And then this burlap ribbon here, too, which I think just gives it, again, that texture, those layers of texture that we're looking for.
Yeah.
And, of course, again, a lot of these plates and things were found in thrift stores or garage sales. So keep your eyes out all year long for things that you might be able to layer on your table.
Now the centerpiece, this looks very ornate, but again, this is handmade.
Absolutely. This is something that anyone could do. Again, start with a block of Oasis that you get at the floral shop, and you will absolutely be able to just embellish and keep adding layers like we did here. Twigs, pine cones, this silver ribbon embellishment, and the berries. And all these natural elements put together make for a really beautiful centerpiece.
Well, you know what? I think we came dressed for dinner because it's blue and brown, and we're blue and brown.
I love it.
We
I love the way that worked out.
We totally planned this.
Isn't that fun when that works out that way?
This is fascinating. For more of Kimberly's expertise, you can head to the bookstores and get the latest from Southern Living. It's called Christmas All Through the South, and it's available nationwide. Kimberly, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me. It's my 3rd year. It's my new Christmas tradition.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
And there's still more to come on the 700 Club because we've got your email questions. Sharon says, God hasn't provided for me, so I'm really mad at him. Will I still get into heaven? Well, stay with us for another round of Bring It On next. All right, we got a little jazz going on today. Well, Sharon writes in, I'm so mad at God. I told God he was a cruel God because I know he could help me if he wanted to. I even used curse words. I was so mad. God has not provided for me. I'm 70 years old and had to stop giving out of my Social Security because he has not helped me. Am I allowed to be this mad at God and still get into heaven? Good question.
I just think, you know, the story was told about a person riding on a train, and there was a grandmother with a little kid in her lap, and the little kid was smacking the grandmother in the face. And you think, you know, little kid, if that grandmother wanted to, she could throw you out of the train. You know, if God wanted to like that, your life would be gone. You're living, you have health, you're alive. That's all God needs to do. He's provided you a world you can live in, so you're mad at him. If I were you, I wouldn't curse God too much because, you know, like Job's wife said, curse God and die. I don't think that's too swift. And I think what we've got to do, if you want to get out of the trouble you're in, start praising him. The way out of the wilderness, folks, is overcoming praise. You've got a hard way to go. Start thanking him. Start praising him. Lord, I praise you for everything. I thank you for life. I thank you for freedom. I thank you for all things I've got. And then let the Spirit of God begin to illuminate your mind until he shows you opportunities that you can prosper. And it's the way he works. But you can curse him all you want to, and when you do, the Bible says when you stand praying, if you have aught against any, you forgive, as your Heavenly Father might forgive you. You want a miracle, you'd better get in the forgiving mode, not in the cursing mode. All right?
Good advice. All right, Robert writes, Pat, is it possible to pray too much? I know the Bible says, ask and you will receive, seek and you shall find, knock and the door shall be opened. I also remember the parable of the consistent person who kept asking the judge, and the judge eventually granted him his request. Can you pray too much?
All right. A teenager comes to Daddy and says, Daddy, can I have the car? Daddy's reading the paper, and he ignores the kid. So the kid comes back and says, Daddy, can I have the car? Father's reading paper, interested in the editorial about how bad the world is, and he wants to concentrate. Third time, kid comes out and says, Father, Dad, can I have the car? Father says, reaches in his pocket, takes the keys, and gives it to the kid. Now, at that point, what does the kid do? If he's got any sense, he'll say, thanks, Pops, and he'll get out of there and drive the car and leave. But what if he stood around and said, can I have the car? Can I please have the car? Can I please have the car? He's got the car. That's the difference between when God says yes, shut up. When God says maybe, then keep praying. When God says no, you've got an answer. So can you pray too much? Yes. There was a in the Bible, there was a king, and the word in Greek is batalogia. That was his name, King Bata, and he stuttered. And so the word for praying too much is batalogia. You're praying too much. You're stuttering. Blah, 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 blah. You know, you're not going to be heard because of much speaking. All right, what else?
Good answer. All right, a viewer writes in, Pat, I am concerned. I've been unemployed for 6 months and about to lose my unemployment benefits. I will then be cashless. 100 resumes submitted and only 3 job interviews. I'm numb, have lost my motivation, have no energy, nothing happening but bills, mortgage, and I have been giving $20 to $40 per month to CBN and others. What can I do? And God bless you.
Ask God what he can put in your hands. You know, there are a lot of jobs you can do yourself. I mean, telephone marketing, for example, you can do telephone marketing from home. There are a lot of people who use their own telephone, make telephone calls, and you can get paid for doing it. Think about raking leaves, mowing lawns, trimming bushes. I mean, there are thousands of things you can do on your own. Don't always wait for somebody else to hire you. But ask the Lord, when you send that $20 or $40 off, you say, God, I am putting a request along with this. I'm investing it with power. Well, we leave you, speaking of power, with today's Power Minute from Psalm 56. Cast your burden on the Lord, and he shall sustain you. He shall never permit the righteous to be moved.